What's up guys, it's Mike from Seattle here. I'm gonna do a video today that's a little bit longer than normal, and that's because I wanna get the information out properly. This is something that I've tried to figure out, and I really have never found a great video. I've seen some comments online about how to answer this question, but haven't really found a fantastic explanatory video on the subject. Now, I don't claim to be the expert by any means, but this is what I'm gonna do to figure out what I should rent my unit for. You might own a condo, you might own an apartment or an apartment building, you might own a house, single family residence, or you might own a duplex like I do. Right now, my tenant's moving out at the end of this month, another 3 weeks, and I'm sitting here saying to myself, well, how much does that side of my duplex rent for? It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. What should I charge? My neighbor across the way owns an exactly identical duplex, and they just rented it at $1,550 a month. They rented it in January. Now I'm looking at renting mine. Mine was already rented for $1,600 a month. So you have to take a few things into consideration. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go ahead and talk about how I am assessing my local market and deciding what I should charge for rent. Now again, my property is a little unique. It's a duplex. These are a little less common than either apartments or single family homes. But we can still look at the apartments and single family homes or other duplexes if they're out there to try to get an idea of what your unit should rent for. Okay guys, there's a couple of different things that I think should be taken into consideration when you're trying to figure out what should you rent your unit for. You want to be realistic. Obviously you want to rent it for as much as you can, because who wants to leave money on the table? But at the same time, you don't want to rent it for too much, not have anyone apply, and then end up losing rent long term because nobody ends up applying and then moving in, and you lose a month, and being $50 higher than market value but losing an entire month's worth of rent could mean you lost $1,600 by waiting a month, but you made $50 a month afterwards for a year, which only translates to $600. Now maybe that math was a little bit obnoxious. Let me bring you back in. If you're going to compare your property, you need to think about it. Is it A class, B class, or C class property? Is this a slum? Is this garbage? Who are you renting to? Or is this a beautiful, well-maintained, with every amenity apartment with the gym and with the pool and all the different things that people might want, right? Be realistic about what type of property you have, where the value in this is. Who is your tenant? That's probably an important question to ask. Do you live in a college town really close to the university? Who is your tenant? Students? Does a student really care if there's a front yard or a backyard? I mean, maybe if they're throwing like frat parties, I suppose you need some area, but a family with kids probably cares an awful lot more about whether or not there's a front yard or whether or not there's a backyard or how far off the main road is if they have small children than college students. Another thing to keep in consideration, the school district. If you're looking at renting to families, are you in a good school district or are you in a bad school district? What different things set your property apart to your particular tenant? So talking about my property, my duplex, I've gone ahead and broken down a list of what I think the important catch factors are, what's going to grab the attention of someone. Number one, I think my tenant is going to be a family. That's who I had in here before, single mom with her 2 kids. What are the features that my potential family moving into my unit are going to be looking for? Probably they're going to be looking for a yard. They have small children that want to play in the yard. Maybe they have a dog or something like that. Typical small family stuff, right? So they're going to want a property that has a yard. They're going to want a property that's pet friendly. We're okay with pets. I personally am not really a fan of snakes. That might be like my little clause in there. No snakes. No snakes. So the small family is probably going to be looking for a yard. They're probably going to be looking for pet friendly. They're going to be looking for at least 2 bedrooms, probably 3, at least 1.5 bathrooms, probably 2. They want a decent kitchen size, a nice family living area. Probably are looking for parking to accommodate a minimum of 2 different vehicles, because mom and dad or whoever the parents in the household are probably have more than 1 vehicle. If you're off from the main road and they have small children, that's desirable. I know it is for me. My son James, 2.5 years old, loves to run around the cars and stuff while I'm standing outside loading up the truck for whatever. He's kind of walking around in the driveway. Well, if the driveway ends at the intersection with a busy street, I got to keep a freaking hawk eye on my son, make sure he doesn't step out onto that street. But if, in my particular case, I live about 70 yards, right, nearly the length of a football field away from the street with tree coverage completely around me and lining the drive, He can run back and forth on our gravel lot and up and down the driveway, and I don't care, because it's going to take him a while, a long time, and a lot of me not paying attention for him to actually make it all the way out to the main street. So that's nice. Another nice thing that a family may take into consideration is I live 1.5 blocks away from a beautiful park, soccer fields, baseball fields, playground, and a lake with swimming and public access, which is all 1.5 blocks away from me. Or even nicer, the little forest area out in my backyard. If you walk down one of these little trails out of my backyard, you get onto the main public trail and can just take the little back route to the park. So that's nice. There's kayak rentals, there's a dock, all public access out at the Allen York Park right there. So I have all of these fantastic little amenities for a small family, as well as one of the most desirable school districts in the county. Bonnie Lake is a really good school system. There's a lot of more upper middle class people around here, so the school system brings in more money, which of course everyone knows leads to better schools. So this is a fantastic area for people. 3 parking spots, if I didn't mention that, and also a garage. One of the parking spots would be the garage, or you could just use it for a garage. It's a nice garage separate from the house, a little 1 car. We have additional storage underneath the house that's accessible. And again, as I mentioned earlier, nice living and plenty of storage on the inside. We have 3 bedrooms, master bedroom with a bathroom, and then another bathroom. Over there, I've got all nice stainless steel appliances. So when I consider the grade for my property, I'm gonna give it a B+ or A-. I mean, it's pretty nice. Doesn't have granite countertops, doesn't have, you know, the truly high-end, beautiful tile backsplashes, tile shower, something like that. But based on the location and everything that it offers, I'm gonna go with a B+. So again, when it comes to grading your property, you wanna give it a grade. Is it an A property, a B property, or C property? Another thing to keep in mind is, what do people in your area typically rent for? Do you have an A property in a C area? That might be a problem. You know, I know most people don't know the local Washington market, but there's certain cities that are way more crime, and I'm sure this is common in just about any area, way more crime, worse school districts, unsafe neighborhoods, lots of vandalism, broken window theory, not a place where I would want to park my patrol car because I guarantee you it's getting vandalized. If you have an A property in a C neighborhood, you don't get to charge A property rent. You might be able to charge a little bit higher than a C property rent, but you're not going to be charging an A property rent. Also, if you have a C property in an A neighborhood, that doesn't mean you get to charge A property rent. If you have a garbage slum style property with nasty old appliances and just all these different issues, and it's gross, but you're in a beautiful neighborhood, yeah, you might get to charge a little more than your average C property because it is still in a nicer school district or a nicer neighborhood or a more beautiful community. But ultimately, people aren't going to just pay an A quality price for a C quality apartment. They'll just go get the A quality apartment. So you have to be realistic. I think personally, my own personal philosophy when it comes to the rent, obviously I want to get as much as I can for the value of the property. I don't really care that much about being at saving and making sure I don't leave a single dollar on the table. I would actually rather maybe even back it off $50 a month just so I can get additional applicants. All right, guys, now I'm sure you want me to just shut up and hurry up and get along with demonstrating how exactly I'm going to look up prices of other similar units and figure out what I'm going to rent mine for. Okay, I promise I'm going to get to it. I said this was going to be a longer video. So what I'm going to do is go on Google, essentially, and just type in houses for rent in Bonnie Lake. Then I'm going to pull up Zillow because I just like how easy it is to look at comparable properties on Zillow. Personally, I like their website. You could use Craigslist, rent.com, apartments.com, whatever you want to look at units in your area. I suggest you get examples from different sources. But I'm going to use Zillow, and I'm going to look at houses for rent in Bonnie Lake and apartments for rent in Bonnie Lake. The reason I'm going to look for both of those is because a duplex has some of the benefits of living in a house and some of the drawbacks of living in an apartment. You do have a neighbor sharing a wall with you in a duplex. That's a drawback of being in an apartment. It's not as bad because I don't have neighbors above me, below me, beside me, but I do have one wall here that the tenant would be sharing with me. So that's a drawback that a house doesn't have. But there are some benefits that a house does have that a duplex does as well. You have a yard, you have more parking, You have a nice deck. Well, you could have a deck in an apartment, but you just essentially have a little more privacy. We're a little further off the road. You have less neighbors. So there's some benefits like a house, some drawbacks like an apartment. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the average of apartments and the average of houses, and then put those together and try to find where I think I fit somewhere in the middle. All I'm going to do is look up about 5 or 6 very similar properties for apartments and very similar properties for houses. I'm not going to be looking at 4-bedroom, 3-bath. I'm going to be trying to look at 3-bedroom, 1.5-bath properties, similar square footage, and is close to the same area, because area, right, real estate, location makes a big difference. Not so nice parts of town versus nice parts of towns can be a huge spread on the total cost. It's another reason why it's good to know your market. 10 miles in one direction could be a giant change in price, but you need to know that before you price your property. So let's go ahead and get into it. Alrighty guys, so what we're gonna do here, as you can see, I already went to Zillow and I popped up 3 bedrooms in Bonnie Lake, Washington, right here. So my property is actually located in right about here where I got the little cursor moving. All I wanna do is I wanna look for the most similar properties to what I have that I possibly can find. So this is actually a new property that just got put on a few hours ago. It hasn't been here recently, so it was interesting to look at. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at it. $15.95. This is actually the one property that is the most similar to mine of all properties listed, both in location and layout, everything about it. So it's a 3-bedroom, 1.5-bath. That's exactly what I have. It's 1,450 square feet. Mine is 1,150 square feet. So I'm wondering if the extra 300 is the garage, and maybe they're incorporating the garage as some additional square footage, because I'm not. I just have 1,150 square feet of living space. That being said, let's take a look at the property. It backs up to the forest, just like mine does. Looks like it has a more outdated kitchen than mine does. I have nice stainless steel appliances over there, a little bit nicer cabinets over there. But ultimately, those aren't usually things you can charge more rent for, but it does make people say, that's a nicer place, I'd rather live there. But you usually don't charge more rent for that. The things you can charge more rent for are additional bedrooms, additional bathrooms, additional parking, and a nicer, bigger kitchen. And again, the kitchens, if you have a 60 square foot countertop kitchen versus 80 square foot, you might not get a lot of additional rent. But if you got a little tiny baby kitchen and a bigger, nicer family style kitchen, you can get away with some more rent there. People will pay for that because it's nice and it's understandable. I will pay for that. So yeah, this property right here at $15.95 is the first one I'm going to throw on my Word document over here. $15.95. Now let's jump back. Let's look at another property. 3-bed, 2-bath over here. We've got a relatively similar property. This one's actually a lot larger in square footage. Very surprised how big this is for 3 bedrooms, 2,000 square feet. That's pretty big. So we got a backyard backing up to the woods again with a deck, both things that I have, so similar in that regard. Looks like a nice driveway long from the road. Very old kitchen. I mean, looking at those pictures, that's like 1970s old. That's a little gross to look at. But that being said, doesn't necessarily mean someone's not going to fall in love with it for its charm. Fireplace 1 and fireplace 2. I'm not a huge fan of fireplaces. We do have over here a very small second bathroom kitchen, or a sink over here. I mean, that's really small. That is not usable for makeup. So, you know, ladies are going to walk in, look at this property and be like, okay, I can never use this bathroom, so let me look at the other bathroom. Ooh, that other bathroom's pink, tile, kind of a smaller countertop. It's manageable, you know, but I mean, I know my girlfriend would look at this and she would say, ew, and way too small. That's exactly what she would tell me. Looks like it has lakefront access, though it's not on the lake. But it's part of a community that has lakefront access. That's pretty common for our area. Yeah, down here, private tennis courts, basketball courts, all nice things people pay extra for. So we have the request of $2,095 a month, and Zillow estimates that it would rent for $2,200 a month. And I agree with Zillow. I think with the lake access being so close and how big it is, that $2,200 a month might even be low. But $2,095, who knows? They're asking for what they ask for. So I'll throw that on my sheet as a comparable property. That's pretty close. $2,095, you can see it right there. Let's go back over here. We'll come down. Now again, I'm going to disregard properties that are way too expensive and not similar to mine. So let's jump in at this $2,145, 3-bed, 2.5 bath. The reason I'm going for 2.5 bathrooms is if you look, there's no other properties other than these two down here that we will look at in a second that are similar to mine. So $2,145 is another property that is in a similar area, similarly sized, a little more square footage. an additional bathroom. Kitchen over here is similar. Front yard, similar to mine. Whoops. Oh, well, I guess we get a big shot of the picture. Hey. But I come down here, you know, similar layout. They have a 2-car garage. That certainly is a nice factor. Large area. Relatively similar property. So this is one I would throw in as a comp. Now we come down to these other two I mentioned. We've got 1895. So this one's a 3-bed, 1-bath. Smaller than my property. It's the only one smaller than my property. Every single 3-bedroom house that I looked at was larger than mine, except for this one. So 1895, 3-bed, 1-bath, and looks like Zillow estimates 1815. So they're pretty close on what they're asking for it. Not as nice of a front yard as I have. Looks like the inside, except for that kitchen. Look at that thing. That is tiny. And I don't know where the fridge is. Maybe they're putting a new fridge in it. I'm assuming that they're not making their tenant pay for their own fridge. But you can see over here that this kitchen is very small. I would guess probably 40%, maybe 50% smaller than mine. Bedrooms are bedrooms, and we got the backyard, which again doesn't really look great, but most renters aren't looking for a beautifully landscaped property, at least not at this price point. So similar property, 1895. We got that thrown over here on the list. Boom, right there. There's the 2145 we looked at earlier. Last property we look at, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1277, so just slightly larger than mine, 100 square feet bigger. 2-car garage, nice hardwood floors, about the same size for kitchen, older appliances than mine. Again, bedrooms are bedrooms, you can see right there. Nice double sink master bath, that's always nice, and a little bit bigger sink here, the panhandle style sink you see right there in the guest room. Big deck, that's nice, bigger than mine. But again, I do have a deck on my property. In fact, actually, it looks very similar to my property from the rear. I almost wonder if it's the same builder. But yeah, 2045, Zillow estimates 1950, so a little bit high compared to what Zillow would estimate. But again, I think that Zillow has been low on everything. But then again, some of the properties have been listed low. So we're going to throw all of these in. And I do not mean to speak down to you if you are the kind of person who is intelligent with math or good at these things, but there are people who watch my channel that are kids, young kids, my own siblings. So when I sit here and explain how you find an average, I'm not trying to make you feel stupid. So I'm going to find the average cost of all those properties. All I'm going to do is add them up together, these 5 properties. I'm going to add that cost up together and then divide it by the number 5. So you put all of those together and then divide it by 5, and that's the average cost of a 3-bed, 2-bath home in Bonnie Lake. And the average cost, you can check my math and do it yourself, is $19.55 a month is what people are asking for. Okay, so that's an important thing to keep in mind. Let's jump over and take a look at apartment buildings. So if we go back over here and instead we go to houses and towns and we go boom, condos, co-ops, apartments, get rid of towns, and we go done. Wow, look at that. We've only got 2 results, and one of them's $3,000 a month, 5-bed. That's a co-op. That's not comparable. I'm not looking at that. I've got 1 single apartment in the entire city that offers 3-bedroom options. This is why living is so expensive in the Seattle area, because there is a shortage in nice communities for larger properties like this. So let's take a look at this one. 1904, and we take a look. I actually know this area. It's really nice. It's built only a few years ago, and this is a very high-end apartment. And these are just nice. Larger kitchens. Look, what's the square footage plan on these? Whoops, jump back in there. Square footage on these 1.1, so about the same size as my property. But over here, if you take a look at the pictures, I mean, they've got the gym, they've got the pool, they've got the whole works going on. I mean, this is a nice area, new playground for your kids. Oh, it's fantastic. It's beautiful. I would love to live here. This is a fantastic property. I would live here. So it's a decent comparison, very similar to what I have. I have the benefit of offering more parking than them, but I'm way closer to the lake. But other than that, it's really similar, really similar. So we throw them on at, what was their cost? $19.04. Jump over here, let's round up to $19.05. Okay, so end of matching results. Try zooming out. So let's zoom out and see what pops up. Now this is where it's important to know your market. Because I know that if I look at properties over here in Federal Way, or over here in Tacoma, aka Tacompton, or Lakewood, aka Lake Hood, where a dear friend of mine was shot in the back of her head, execution style, by her husband. A little dark for a real estate video, I know, but it's actually what prompted me to be in law enforcement, was her being killed. I know that properties in these areas may be big, but they're gonna have low costs. These aren't the safest areas, not the best school districts, not where most people wanna raise their kids. But over here, where I'm at, night and day. Beautiful properties, beautiful areas. So if I start looking at comparable size properties, but I find out that I'm in Tacoma, Lakewood, or Federal Way, I'm gonna see prices drop. And I'm gonna say to myself, wait a minute, why is this so cheap? Oh, location. So you need to know your market so that you can have a better estimate as to what you should charge. This type of information and knowledge comes from research or living there or both. So let's take a look at some other results. And if I go back to my page, which ones did I look at? So I looked at 1750, 1785, I think this is these right here. 1750, 3-bed, 2.5 bath. It's an apartment for rent. And actually, I think this is like a condo or another townhome similar to mine. So relatively similar, a little more square footage. 1769 is the estimate from Zillow, so they're just right in there on what they got. Doesn't look like they have very many pictures. But 3-bed, 2.5 bath, similar sized. I'm gonna go ahead and throw it on my list. Coming down here for Lakewood, again, Lake Hood. So for the freaking Lakewood apartment, I think is one of the ones I looked at. But yeah, again, you've got different prices here for different floor plans. But essentially, the big floor plan, 3-bed plus, you're gonna be looking up at the 1720 mark. So I really just tried to do what I did earlier, and University Place is another nice town. That's a nicer city, similar to where I live at. It's actually where the Masters was held a year or so ago. I remember working some overtime there, providing security. I don't remember what it was we were doing, but they had a golf tournament there. 3-bed, 2-bath, 1250, very similar to mine. We got 1750 as the cost. So anyways, all I did was essentially look at a few different properties in this area as I expanded my search and tried to find similar 3-bed, 2.5 baths and add them to my list. So my similar properties were priced at 1905, 1750, 1785, 1873, and 1850. Now the other thing to keep in mind is almost every single one of these properties is going to come with one parking spot, and it's $50 a month or more for an additional spot. Most people who are looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath are families with kids or like 3 roommates, and people are gonna have cars. So you can pretty much add $50 at least to each one of these rents because people are going to have to pay it to park their car. Or they're gonna be parking 3 blocks away and walking every night, which is what I've done many years. But for the sake of the video, we'll just leave it as is. But you keep in the back of your mind, with my property, you're given 3 spots. You're not gonna have to pay for an additional parking. So the average 3-bed, 2-bath apartment rent was $1832 a month. And if you add the housing cost and the apartment cost together, you get the average rent for a unit with 3 bedrooms and 2 baths is $1893. So that says to me, I'm looking at that $1,900 range. Again, I also get to say to myself, my tenants won't be paying for additional parking, and I pay their water bill. Now, I don't know about your area, but here in Bonnie Lake, water is actually pretty expensive. It's more expensive than electricity. Electricity is like $80 a month. Water is like $160. So per side. So if they're saying to themselves, if I live in a house, I'm going to have my own garbage, my own sewer, my own water. But if I live in this duplex, I get the water bill paid for free and the parking. I mean, that's worth a couple $100 right there. So what I'm looking at listing my unit for is $1950 a month. Just slightly above the apartment housing average. And that is also just barely under the average for a house. And I think that this is probably a pretty fair price considering you're going to get the water bill paid for and no parking. Or additional parking, excuse me. I think that that's probably going to end up being a good value for the tenant. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hey, look, I know that was a long video, as I said it was probably going to be, but I wanted to really show my thought process and the thoughts that I had going into figuring out what I would consider pricing my unit for. I could be totally off. If you've got a comment or a question or you think you've got a better method, please leave it down below. I'm happy to consider it. I'm going to be looking to advertise for that place here in the next week and a half or so, trying to get it rented as early into August as I possibly can and trying to figure out what it's worth so that I don't lose money essentially, but also so that I don't look like an idiot and charge too much is, what I've been thinking about pretty much nonstop for the last several days. So thanks for watching, guys. As always, don't subscribe. That's just dumb. My videos aren't good enough quality. The editing is terrible. I was literally eating an Otter Pop the whole time. It's gone now. I'm kind of sad about that. I'll probably get another one. So, there's that. Yeah, I can't believe you wasted your time watching this for like the last 20 minutes. Guess that shows what kind of person you are. Joke's on you.